So getting ready now to put in the front floor of the bowler trailer, which will go all around here. And to start the operation, I need to do a couple things. One is where we cut the old floor out, I had trimmed this part. You see here, this was fiberglassed onto the floor and that extended all the way around. So I'm going to do the same treatment, but I want to trim this remnant right back flush with the wall if I can, or as close to as I can. And then use the wire wheel and strip off all the paint that's on here, because we're going to be putting some new fiberglass in there, and I want to have that sticking to raw fiberglass rather than to something with paint on it. So a little bit of prep work on this section and a little bit of cleanup to get rid of the old insulate and make this a little better workspace. So that is the edge that I'm looking for, pretty much flush with the wall. There is a little bit of residual fiberglass here from this bottom part, or maybe as they were putting in the floor and they stuffed fiberglass in there, it's mounded up a little bit, but I expect to see that all the way along. And it's why I wanted to make sure that I had this flush, because I do expect the floor there to be a little bit of gap between the wall and the floor, and I will have to stuff some long strand fiberglass resin or filler in there to fill that gap before we put on the fiberglass matting that comes down off the wall and onto the floor. Okay, I've gone around the entire perimeter here and trimmed that off. Not quite flush, but pretty close. I encountered a couple rivets up in here. Not really sure what they're for. There's still one there. But I'll clean up with the wire brush and see what we have. So wire brush, I'm going to take it up to probably about here, just so we have some good room for putting on the fiberglass mat to hold this floor down, or in actually. So next step will be clean up with wire brush. You can see that wire wheel is on the grinder is really doing a good job of stripping right back to fiberglass. So that's going to make a good surface for bonding. I'll continue on then with the rest of this and come back when we're done. So now I have this all cleaned up, the entire length of that piece. So now we'll do some cutting and fitting, fine tuning of the front floor. Get that piece set in. Before I put any fiberglass, I'll clean all that off with some acetone, just to make sure we get some good bonding. And here is the old, or the original front floor. And I have a new piece of 5/8 plywood here. And I have traced the old piece on here and allowed about 1/4 of an inch, so I can make some minor adjustments if I need to, I hope, to get it to the right shape. But first, I'm going to use my circular saw, make a straight cut right along there, another straight cut here, so I'll wind up with a little L piece left over. That'll be used for the frame floor, the dance floor. I'll tell you more about that a little later. So cut out this square first, and then we'll use the jigsaw to cut the shape. sure how the camera angle is going to work out on this, but let's give it a try. The good news is it's slightly oversized. It's wonderful. And I can see where I do need to take out a little bit, so yep, going to make a few adjustments here and there until we get this right. So I'll mark it up, trim it a little bit, put it back in. I'll come back when I have a reasonable fit. One of the little adjustments needed to be made was a little notch here to account for the door molding, or the door sill. That's looking okay. The side is going to come in just a little wee bit. Remember, this whole bottom of the turner is spread out just a bit, so it's going to be tucked in. And over here, I'm trying to get the edge of this lined up here, and I'm out by about 1/2 inch. So I can see that I'm a little tight up in this section here. So I'm going to take a little bit more off there, and I'm going to take a little bit more off here, just so I can move this up a little bit. So it's these kinds of adjustments that are being made now to get a good fit. These are the short strokes. We are really, really close now, and the only bit of binding that I've got is up in this, right in this section here. So I'm just going to take that little bit off, and we should be good. I'm going to call that a fit. So we're close enough in here. We're lined up with that edge to the line that I want. Got a reasonable fit all the way around. That's going to be packed full of long strand fiber and resin. The goal is obviously to pack it in tightly, fill that gap, and provide a little bit of a round over so that when the mat comes down, it will adhere. It's a little bit better than making a really sharp corner or gap in there. I want to fill that in as best as I can. So, I think the next task here is going to be rub down that edge with some acetone, clean it up. I'm debating whether to pre-coat the edge of this with some resin, just so that it adheres a little bit better, but I'm not sure that I need to do that. I'll think about that. Yeah, but I think we're ready to get this front floor put in place. The other thing I'm going to do is double check all the measurements, make sure I need to be 73 inches from that wall to that wall. So I'll probably need to do a little bit of clamping and tying off just to make sure that we're in the right spot. One more thing I wanted to mention, which I haven't done that, I don't know if we've talked about this, is that this area down here in the original bowler was a bunk, like a sofa and a bed. We're going to make this into a dinette. So that means I'm going to cut out a section in here that will give me let me lower this section down to what I call the dance floor. And then when the bench is here, it gives good leg room for sitting at a table. So we'll have a little table in here, bench on this side, a bench on this side. And if we want, I can make the fill this in so that it could be a bunk if we wanted it to be a bunk. But that's not the plan at the moment. The plan is to make sure that this space is usable as a dinette. That way the bed can be set up and be left set up. We don't have to constantly take up, take down, take up, take down every day. All right, back to the packing in. All right, with a couple clamps on the outside just to hold this strap in place. So apply just a little bit of pressure, just some gentle pressure, nothing really significant, and I brought the side of the bowler in about 1/2 inch. So I'm at 73 1/4 at the fiberglass, 73 on here. So there's a little bit of a gap on each end, and I think that'll work splendidly. So I am going to take the floor out of here and apply some resin onto the edge. I'm just messing around here in the taillight area. I needed to take the taillights out. They had some wires dangling in that were going to be cut off, but they were just kind of in the way for finishing off that area where the floor is going to go. The wires were just going to be constantly in the way, and these taillights needed to be replaced anyway. So what was on here when we got it was some just general utility type trailer lights, aftermarket things. They're the cheapest ones you can buy, but they were functional. So I appreciate them being on there. But we do have this piece of diamond plate, aluminum diamond plate going around here. Not really sure what the function of this was. Perhaps to cover a larger hole. I don't know, because the pots themselves are complete. So I'm not really sure what the purpose of this was. So I'm going to take this off. I want to look behind it anyway. I don't think this is going to be necessary moving forward. So I'm just going to take that off. That was a little bit anticlimactic. They just popped right off. There was no adhesive on them. They just seemed to be held in place under the pressure of the bolts that were going through for the tail light, and possibly a little bit of paint around the edge. So I think we're back to the original color here. This might have been a white trailer to begin with. Anyhow, we're going to, I'll do a little bit of patching in here because I'd like to get rid of some of the holes. Not all those holes are necessary, so I'll do a little bit of fixing up in there. But I'm going to first work on the wiring. That's the thing that's top of mind right now. Or not the wiring, the floor. Sorry, I'm going to work on the floor. So I spent a little time now cleaning up this part of the floor. Well, the wall, actually, where what I call the mid floor is going to meet the wall. And then I went all around the rear and cleaned up the entire section here for the rear floor. Used up my wire wheel that I had on the grinder. That is, by the time I got to here, there was just a few fragments left. I finished up with a wire wheel on the end of a drill. And that worked just to finish it up. But yeah, if you have a lot of stuff to do with a wire wheel, you may want to get two. All right, so now I'm ready to lay out the floor, the rear floor, on a new piece of wood. Let me show you what I got. Here's the old floor laid on top of some new wood. On that edge, it's pretty well defined, so I'm good. I can go all the way around. By the time I get to here though, this part of the floor was just so completely rotten that I have nothing really that I can use to trace. So what I intend to do is trace out a little more than half of it using the good defined edge, flip the piece over, and finish up on this edge with the reverse image of that side. Hopefully the thing is symmetrical, but we'll find out. So here's the rear floor now, almost in. It fits very well on this side. I'm very happy with this fit. But over here, I just need to take out, you can see that blue line. Just gonna take a little bit off there, and then it'll allow this to move over just a little bit. I'd like another 1/4 inch on this side. This little gap became a little too wide, but it comes in a 1/4 inch, and it's fillable at that point. So I'm okay with that. But yeah, a bit of a struggle getting this one in. It's not an easy piece to put in, especially single-handedly, but it can be done. Okay, final little cut made on that corner and a little bit off that edge. So this is fitting about as well as it can possibly fit. So we're going to take it out now and coat the edges all around with some resin just to make the fiberglass stick a little better. So now putting this in permanently. To do that, I have the short strand fiberglass. And I'm just putting down now in the crack here between the edge of the plywood floor and the base of the and the trailer body. Just trying to round that down there as tight as I can. force as much in as possible. And I'll just keep working my way around until we're done with this operation, and then we start laying on fiberglass from here down onto the top. And that's going to be the fiberglass mat with resin. Alrighty, we're on to the next phase of putting the fiberglass in here, and this is going to be done in at least 2, maybe 3 layers. First one is just a little short layer, the next layer will be a little wider, and the third, if I apply it, will be even wider than that. Just so that in the end, there's one seam, as opposed to starting with a wide layer and then working down to smaller layers. I just used a little Dixie cup. I measured 30 ounces and put a line on it, so that then divide that up. So I know roughly how much resin to put in. And about 12 drops of resin for every 30 ounces that I put in. So mix up 60 ounces here and start putting in a few pieces. Okay, looks like I'm closer to 90 with that. I don't want to do too much because this doesn't have a long, you know, I have to work it in, and I don't get a lot of time with it, so I have to be kind of quick and careful. Now, first to admit, I am not a fiberglass expert, so what you're seeing is what I have gleaned by watching a lot of YouTube. And I'm starting a little bit back from this edge on purpose because we're going to put a joint in here. Seems I'm creating more air bubbles than I want. All right, there's one piece. Just move along. I like that a little better. You should learn techniques as you go. All right, with that little bit done, I'm just going to go rinse out this brush in some bar salt. What do you call it? You know that stuff. Just to clean that out. Come back, we'll mix up another batch and carry on. So I'm going to be doing that to finish off the rest of this. I'll come back when I have the entire piece done in our first layer. All right, our first layer of fiberglass is in all the way around. So in theory, this floor is now permanently connected to the body. I'm going to do at least one more coat. We'll see how that goes and possibly do a third after that. That's the first one. I'm very happy with how that went. It set in very nicely. Didn't have much in terms of air bubbles or gaps, so I'm very pleased with that one. Let's hope the next one goes as well. All right, our floor is now in place. I have put 2 layers of fiberglass all around. The rear floor, mid floor is in place and fiberglassed in with strips that kind of come out at that joint just to kind of seal that up a bit. And of course, 2 strips of fiberglass all around the edge of the front and mid floor. I also fiberglassed in the fender, or the fender well in here and also at the back here. So that's held in place now. And the whole structure has a much more solid feel to it. It's amazing what a difference that has made. Now there's still a little bit of fiberglass to put on the underside of this, as just a single layer that'll go around, but that's a really awkward job. I have to be down on my back underneath to do that. I'm going to do that off camera. But in the meantime, now I'm going to start working on the frame, but that'll be the next series of videos. So I'll call this a video for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. I will see you on the next one.